Good evening, everyone. This is a public meeting of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for March 25th, 2013. We have two matters before us, and I'd like to remind everyone, if you plan on speaking on behalf of either of these petitions, that you please sign in at the podium before addressing the board. The first matter before us is under new business. This is ZB 2013-5. Petition is a special permit. The applicant is Markarian Properties, LLC. The property is located at 226 Central Street. And the petition is to renovate the top 2 floors of the building into a total of 4 residential units in accordance with Article 12, Table of Uses of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, Mr. Flood.
Board, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, Lowell, representing Markarian Properties, LLC. With me tonight is Peter Markarian, who is the manager of the LLC, and also his son, Eric. Although Peter is from Billerica, he does own additional rental properties within the city, so he has made an investment in the city. As the notice said, we're in front of you tonight for a special permit under Article 12 to convert the top 2 floors of the building at 226 Central Street into 4 residential units. The existing commercial use on the first floor will remain. There has been no demand for commercial space on the second floor of this building, so that's why he's decided to do it. The units will be between 1,300 and 1,600 square feet. All of the units will have 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, a kitchen, and a dining area. It's my client's intention to turn the building into a condominium with the 4 units on the second and third floor and 1 commercial unit on the first floor. He's not planning any changes to the exterior of the building, except necessary cosmetic and structural repairs to the facade and or the roof as necessary. As outlined in the narrative submitted with the application, the proposed development conforms with the City of Lowell Master Plan for mixed-use development. The mixed-use development will enhance the goal of the city to create an attractive, safe, and vibrant environment in which people can work and live. Since there are no major changes to the facade of the building, the character of the neighborhood will not change. Additional residential units will create a strong base of customer support for businesses and restaurants downtown. And as has been shown in the past, new residents bring in new businesses. So hopefully some of these people might open their own business. As to parking, each unit shall have 2 parking spaces in the City of Lowell parking garage. I think we've submitted a letter to this board. And any new residents down there will not cause any additional new traffic to the downtown. The building is presently served by all necessary utilities, and since there'll be no outside construction, there'll be no adverse impact on the environment. There is an existing dumpster located in the alleyway behind the building underneath the fire escape, which has been there for many years, which they intend to continue to use for the residents. So they intend to develop a first class units, and I would ask the board to favorably approve this request, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, Mr. Flood. You did address a couple of the things I had. Trash was one, and that's been addressed. So are these going to be all rental units or owner-occupied?
They're going to be sales. They sell them. They figure the prices between $350 and $475, excuse me.
Okay.
So market rate, Counselor?
Yeah, all market rate.
So we're aiming
yeah.
at? Okay.
Okay.
I mean, they're big units too. And
Yep. Joe, did any comments from the city, any of the city departments, anybody come back? I don't think.
No, we didn't have any additional comments.
Yep.
Only the fire department saying the building will have to be sprinkled, have to have a sprinkler system.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything else you want to add
Nope.
at this point? Okay. I'm going to open it up to the public. Is anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple of questions. The existing building currently is commercial on the first floor, and the existing use on the second and third is
Vacant.
vacant. Prior to it being vacant, how
I
is it
think
used?
years ago, Dennis, there were doctors up there and lawyers up there, but there's been no demand.
So, is it a change in use on the second and third floor from commercial to residential?
I would say yes.
It is, okay. And it's a fire escape in the rear of the building. Is that a ladder that accesses those?
I can ask Eric, you wanna,
Good evening. The fire escape in the rear of the building is a ladder drop-down system, currently.
Okay. And is the building sprinklered?
The building is currently not sprinkled, but it is in our scope to install a complete fire safety sprinkler system, along with the fire alarm system.
And how are the units going to be heated and cooled?
The heating mechanical is going to be natural gas. It's going to be either hydronic air with ductwork or conventional warm air gravity furnace, warm air.
Central to the units, or is it going to be one central to the building?
For independent central heating and cooling systems.
Okay.
We may even contemplate electric heat pump. It's kind of a work in progress.
There's no elevator in the building?
There is not.
Okay.
That's why we have vacancies.
Excuse me?
That's one of the reasons why the property's not rentable on the upper 2 floors.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there storage accessible in the basement, or is the basement, is there a basement, I
There is a
guess?
basement, full basement to the footprint of the building, and we were entertaining the thought of putting additional storage downstairs. It's kind of still up in the air, but the ability is there, if necessary.
Okay. The extent of the renovation is going to include renovating the units themselves, or new roof, new windows? What exactly are you doing to the
The
structure
renovation,
itself?
excuse me, the renovation is going to involve interior, complete remodel, conform to the state standards. Windows, for the most part, are going to remain original. Everything, of course, through the city historical board. Interior, wall partitions, everything necessary to conform to the footprint of the plans that we have.
And then the roof itself, is
The
that
roof may be replaced completely.
replaced as
Yeah,
well?
it's going to undergo an inspection from a certified roofing company to give it a certification, or will have to be replaced.
Well, I think that it's great to have a use in the building rather than vacancy, and I think that residential does make a lot of sense where we see a lot of it going on in the neighborhood down there, so.
It's vacant. Yeah, it's been vacant for almost 5 years, 2 floors. Yeah.
They look like nice units.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I actually own property adjacent to this property downtown, and I received a butters notice, so due to conflict of interest, I'm choosing to recuse myself
Thank you.
from this discussion. Thanks.
Yep, thank you. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, one of my questions was answered by my colleague as it relates to the fire suppression and sprinkler system. The only other question I had regarding was the fire escape. Would that be reviewed through you, Mr. Chairman? Is that something that's reviewed through the fire department for code for new occupancy at this point?
Phil, can you address that, please?
Yeah, when building permits are submitted to renovate the units, if the board were to grant approval, that is something that would go under the fire department's review, would be the condition of the fire escape.
Okay, just because there's no, we had nothing on file, just want to make sure that that's part of the fire plan, that's all. Those are the
We'll agree to conform to any fire
Yep.
regulations.
only 2 questions I had, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Corey?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. A few questions for Mr. Markarian, if you could take the podium, please. Yeah. Now, how long have you owned the building now, may I ask?
We own the building since 2003, I believe, yeah.
Okay, about
My
10 years?
father,
Okay.
myself, and both my mother and my wife were all partners in the LLC that formed the LLC.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, what kind of success have you had attempting to rent this as commercial space, office, whether it be a chiropractor, an insurance, a lawyer's office, because all those things are fast becoming a thing of the past downtown. So have you had any success in trying to rent this commercially, or?
Unfortunately, because the building is not ADA compliant, none of the medical facilities that you suggested, we've brought them in, even disclosing the fact that they're not ADA compliant without the elevator. We've even entertained handicap chairlift, because the stairwell is 5 feet wide, and they have the handicap ADA compliant chairlift. It was kind of not something that was received well between prospects. When we first initially purchased the building and renovated it, carpet, walls, plaster, what have you, the first few years we did have some occupancy, but we never broke past 50%. And it's just been years and years of just, hoping. But that's the extent of it.
Okay, yeah, it disheartens me, but maybe that's the direction downtown is heading. But the fact that, I think you'll do a good job with the project, and they're market rate condos, that's goes over well with me. So, I would rather see commercial, to be honest with you, but that's not what's in front of me here this evening.
Right.
But I know I don't like empty space at the same time either, so.
True.
I do, based on that, they're gonna be market rate condominiums, I do support the project, so, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Ben?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I always think it's very impressive when a building reinvents itself. You're not doing well as a commercial property, and downtown's kind of heading in the direction of residential. So I think this is a good project, and I do support this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So I guess based on everything I've heard, at least to this point, addressed each of the questions that the board members had. And Joe, I don't think we need to condition anything in regards to the fire department, because it should be, that it all should be part of the regular, in fact, for the building permit and the review process, that'll be handled at that point, correct?
Yeah, it seems like the questions that the board had tonight were all things that would be reviewed by the fire department during the building permit phase.
Yeah. I guess the only last thing I'll ask, any anticipated time frame when the work would be completed, Attorney
I
Flood?
think they'll start it, probably the spring,
Yep.
and how long will it take? All right.
I'm an electrical contractor. I've been licensed electrician for 25 years, and I'm in construction, and I actually specialize in fire prevention. So we're going to try to move this as quickly as possible.
How long do you figure it'll take
The renovation could take in the areas of 9 months to a year,
Yep.
but there's a lot of paperwork, there's submittals to the fire department, building, addressing all the issues, heating.
Well, I think it's a nice-looking building down
Yeah.
there.
It's going to be it's
Obviously.
going to be a nice project.
Yeah, I think once it's done, hopefully you'll be successful.
Yeah.
So, having said that, I believe the applicant has met pretty much all the criteria that we look for in a special permit. And with that said, I'd like to look for a motion, please.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us is ZBA 2013-05, a special permit at 226 Central Street. Make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey? Mr. Bailey?
Oh, I'm sorry. Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve?
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I wish you the best of luck with the project.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You want me to make the next one?
Okay, our next matter before us is ZB 2013-6. This is for a variance. The applicant is Marlowe Building and Design, Inc., property located at 14 and 16 3rd Street. And the petition is to construct a 2-story, 4-unit building with a central parking lot without meeting side or front setbacks or parking dimension requirements pursuant to Section 5.1 and 6.1 of the zoning code. Evening, Councilor Geary.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Stephen Geary, Geary & Geary LLP at 32 Church Street in Lowell, and tonight I represent Mr. Peter Marlowe, who is from Marlowe Building and Design. And just quickly, by way of a little bit of background, Mr. Marlowe has been in the city all his life. He has been working in the city in this industry for about 40 years. He's a 1972 graduate of Lowell High School, and he's been working doing these type of projects ever since then. And tonight before you, we have an exciting project, a project that I think the board, hopefully the board will embrace. And I know that the neighborhood groups completely support this. Mr. Marlowe has been working for the last 14 months with the planning and development and city leaders in order to accomplish this project. It required a zoning change that was approved about a month ago from the city council, and that has already gone through. And now the last part is he has a purchase and sale contingent upon this board's approval for the what I'll call lot number 2, which is the second petition. So if, for simplicity, Mr. Chairman, if I could address...
You want me to read in
Yeah, if you could.
next one? Sure.
Yes.
And the second petition is ZB 2013-7, and this is a variance. The applicant is Marlowe Building and Design, Inc. The property is located at 401 Bridge Street, and the petition is to construct a 3-story mixed-use building, 2 commercial units, 4 residential units, with a central parking area without meeting lot area per dwelling unit, open space or parking dimension requirements pursuant to Section 5.1 and 6.1.1 of the zoning code.
Perfect. So I'll address the project in its entirety. If anybody has any specific questions as to one individual parcel, I'd be happy to answer those, and if I can't, I can defer them to Mr. Marlowe. But the request is for a few variances for each property. The variances are relatively minor in nature, and definitely there's a hardship here owing to the circumstances related to the shape of these lots, and relief can be granted in this case without any detriment to public good. And this project is, without question, can be approved without nullifying or substantially derogating the intent of the zoning, which in this case is the neighborhood business. And really, the name neighborhood business in this directly describes what Mr. Marlowe is proposing here tonight. So you can see, if you look at the plan, Peter, if you could point out the lot number 1, which is, that building is 401 Bridge Street. If you drive by there now, that is a vacant lot. It's pretty much used as a dumping ground, and people leave different things there. And what Mr. Marlowe proposes is to construct a 3-story mixed-use building consisting of 2 commercial units and 4 residential units in that area. That's going to be a beautifully designed and very well-built building if it's approved. It's going to have a clock on it, and you're going to be able to see that coming off the bridge, going into that Centerville Bridge Street corridor, which has been so improved over the last couple of years. You have the guaranteed aluminum building on one side, the CVS on the other, and it's just getting better as it goes up that corridor. And it's really, something that has been desperate, all those projects, something desperately needed in that Bridge Street area for, the last several decades. So this is another piece to that puzzle. And Mr. Marlowe has worked with the city because to make this project feasible, he has to do both. He has to do both lots, which is why he has the middle lot, which I'll call it's not really a middle lot, but I'll call that central parking, the middle parcel. So as you can see, the proposed building will be on the Bridge Street side. That's the commercial and residential. And then in the middle is going to be all the parking, and we're going to use the parking on the left side, or I could say the west side, for the parking for the residential and the commercial building, and then the other row house will be proposed to be built on the other side with 4 units with plenty of parking there and some open space in front of it. And he's addressed everything through the planning board. This went through the planning board, I believe, 2 weeks ago, and it was unanimously approved. They went through all of the issues that could possibly come up at length, and all of those issues were addressed. And again, this has been, Mr. Marlowe has worked with planning and development, and they've done this, almost together to see what would be the best thing. Mr. Marlowe has made several different changes to this project, and I think as it's proposed now, it's going to be an excellent project. So the proposal calls for plenty of parking, except that the relief is for the dimension for the parking spaces themselves. They're not going to be the 9 feet. We're looking for relief for the 8.5 feet, which is pretty consistent with all your major commercial parking spots and, the Market Basket and places like that. The reason for the request for the variance for that is so he can get the 19 spots in, which does make a big difference in that. It gets one extra spot in. It allows for that, Peter, if you could show the 22-foot roadway that's going to go down the middle. And what is nice about this project is the infrastructure that is proposed. Mr. Marlowe is going to do all the underground drainage. It's all going to drain nicely, just as it's required by engineering, and that's not there right now. So all that's going to be done. The project at its completion is going to look fantastic for that area. It's just going to enhance the whole area and hopefully encourage other business owners to do the same thing, if not Mr. Marlowe, for further projects after this one. He's already done 480 Bridge Street that you're probably aware of, and it's an excellent building, very nicely built, and mostly everything he does in the city and has done is high-quality work. He takes tremendous pride in the work he does. His name's on that building. It's going to be on that building forever, and he wants it to look good. Now, for the issues with this, these units are going to be the rental units. The residential units are going to be all rental units. They all require sprinklers, so it's all going to be sprinkled. It's all going to be to code. It's going to be handicap compliant. They've allotted for snow removal. Peter, if you can point out on it where the snow removal will. So there's plenty of room to push it, a way to bring it, and that was all working with DPD to do that. And the units in the front are going to have for garbage removal totes. So if you want to point those out, Peter, there's going to be 6 of them on that side. 8 of them on that side. That's going to take care of the residential and commercial. And on the other side are the other 4 totes. So there's 12 in total. And those are all going to be private pickup. At this point, there may be a way that the city's responsible for it. If that's the case, that would work. But if not, they're going to be privately picked up. They're well screened, and everything is going to blend in. If you look at this project, the topography of this land, it goes from Bridge Street, so let me go down. It goes from the west side of 3rd Street down towards Bridge Street, so that's west to east, at a pretty significant gradient. It's not a completely flat lot, which makes it, it was somewhat challenging for Mr. Marlowe to come up with how to do this. But, after working, like I said, for the last 14 months with the city, he's come up with this project and has addressed nearly every issue that could possibly come up. So one of the requests is for the, if you go to the first one, Peter, on the request for the variance up top. Yeah, so these requests, like I said, are minor in nature. One of them is for dwelling unit, the open space per dwelling unit. This is in a significant, as you know, a significant urban area. There are 3 fields right around that area. There's McPherson, there's Gage Field, and there's St. Louis Field. On the other side, a quarter-mile away, as we all know, is the Riverwalk. So there's plenty of recreation and open space for anybody in that area. And this area is completely consistent with the existing neighborhood. It's neighborhood business district, and we're going to basically add to the neighborhood residential and put a business there, and it's all going to blend in together nicely. I think the only significant variance that we're looking for is as it relates to the side yard setback with the second project. Peter, if you could point out the side yard setback from the next property. But when you go up there, you'll see that there's a stone wall there. It's going to be 4 feet away as opposed to the required, I believe it's 15. But you'll see that that fits in with the whole entire rest of the neighborhood. It's completely consistent with everything there. It's really the only way to do it and the only way to make this project work. And Peter has addressed all those issues. Each of those units have decks facing would it be the north side, Peter? Facing the north side, so they all have their own decks, and they're tastefully designed units, and it's gonna provide taxes for the city, It's gonna be a row house too, and I think the row house is gonna look exactly like a lot of the other houses there, except brand new. And both, all of these, all the proposed buildings here are going to be brand-new construction with high-quality materials, which is, consistent with what Mr. Marlowe has always done. But it's gonna provide 4 families on that side with somewhere to live, and it's gonna be market rate rental units, and on the commercial side, families there with places to live. So it's gonna add to our tax base residentially, it's gonna add to our commercial tax base, and it's one of those situations where it's a win for the neighborhood, and I know some of the ladies are here from the neighborhood. It's a win for the city because they've been involved in this project. It gets rid of a vacant lot that's been nothing but a headache there, and it works for Mr. Marlowe as well. But in order for it to work, it has to be the way it's proposed here tonight. So if anybody has any specific questions to anything that I had mentioned, I'd be happy to answer those, or like I said, you can direct your questions directly to Mr. Marlowe, who, knows every inch of this project inside and out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll just ask just an initial question. I know, I watched the planning board meeting, so I know what Mr. Marlowe went through during the planning board meeting. As far as I know they asked about the trash pickup, and you're gonna go with the rollouts. Just the thought that I had, if for the commercial units that you're going to have in front, depending on what type of businesses go in there, I guess it's possible that they would need more than one of those rollouts. Not sure, I don't know what type of businesses are going to go in there, but if in the event there was a business that they needed more services as far as type of trash that they have, I would assume you have the capability of, if you needed like a direct pickup, for instance. That's just a thought that I had, just to throw it out there. I'm not saying, we don't know what's going in there, but I think because of the way you have the hardscape at least set up, you have that possibility, but I think that should be considered,
We do have that possibility. The one thing, the original plan was to put a small container dumpster over here.
Right.
But then we found that this was too far for people to walk over, and we didn't want to have the two dumpsters
Yep.
on the one site. So we came up with this, which I didn't even know about. Planning development told me about the private totes, so that seems to work out.
Yep.
But on my other building at 480 Bridge Street, which I used to house the police precinct, if people don't remember that, there's a tax service there now and a phone store. We have a small dumpster out back that they actually roll out on wheels and they pick it up, but this is much more accessible.
Yep.
So we could put a small container there if we had to.
Sure, yep. And I know that was covered, but it was just a thought. I'm gonna refrain from any other questions at this point. Do you have anything else you want to add at this?
I don't, I didn't bring up one thing, but
Yep.
part of the landscaping plan was already submitted. I think you have a copy of that there. It goes into details about exactly what plants and plantings and trees are gonna be there.
So
Some-
tonight we received revised plans, which
Yes.
I assume that you're showing here.
Right.
Correct.
And it looks like, for instance, as far as the landscaping goes, was there anything of note as far as the landscape plan that changed from the original to this one?
Not at all. It's just that
Okay.
we worked, after we submitted this, we actually worked directly with planning and development. I sat down with the 2 women in
Yep.
charge, and they came up with the trees they wanted. So each page has 3 trees. I get to basically select one of those. And some of them are for tighter areas, like in the front of 3rd Street. They don't grow as large, and we can keep them trimmed back. In the back of 3rd Street, those are going to be much larger trees that'll give more shade. So these are what the city suggested.
Right. So I know I said 2 seconds ago I wasn't going to ask a bunch of questions, and I will refrain, but is there anything, what's the major change between this latest set of plans and the original ones? Is there anything of
No, it
magnitude?
was mainly a lot of what's on the plan. It's actually on the reverse side. A lot of what the city engineer wanted had to do with drainage, and she wanted to see more detail on it. One of the things that was mentioned on this plan was the bollards weren't in the right location. They wanted them, so we moved them back, and they wanted a detailed drawing on the bollards, which we did.
Yep. I know the city engineer had a list of questions for you, which you,
We went through every item.
Yep.
The only change, I think, from, well, you have the new plan, was we now have snow storage in 2 locations.
correct.
So it eliminated a small grassed-in area, which we should have picked up on. The engineer didn't.
Yep, okay. So with that said, now I'm going to
Okay?
take my own word and keep quiet. All right, if you don't have anything else, counsel, I'm going to open it up to the public
Sure.
at this point. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor?
My name is Anne Marie Page. I reside at 26 Fremont Street in Lowell, and I sit on the board of the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group.
Good evening.
Mr. Marlowe did come and meet with the neighborhood group. He did make a presentation. People had questions. He answered the questions, and it looks like a very good-looking project. If you come up the Bridge Street corridor now, you will notice we have our brand-new CVS, we have our brand-new aluminum siding, we have a brand-new DCU, Digital Credit Union, we have another brand-new Dunkin' Donuts, and a couple other businesses are going to do a little sprucing up for the spring, which we definitely encourage. Our only concerns have been met. 401 is to be business and resident above, which was there before, and this is a good-looking building. Parking seems to have been met, and there is a parking lot across the street for other businesses on Bridge Street. Some of them don't have parking, they have on-street parking. Our main concern was 14 to 16 3rd Street. We realized zoning had to be adjusted because zoning had been updated a few years ago. This is a good-looking project. It looks like 4 townhouses when you look at it. It is all residential. Our only concern was that 1416 3rd Street is all residential, and there'll be no businesses in that building, and I believe that's been confirmed and is in writing. So this is a good-looking project, right down to the landscaping, one of our favorite things over there. If you can get it to grow, good for you, because I can't, but I want you to. So we thank you for your time, your effort. We're looking forward to this. We've been looking to an ugly parking lot, and we've been looking at an empty lot for quite a while. And this will be good for the neighborhood, and it'll be good for the city, too. We thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Yes, sir.
My name's Dennis Deegan, 51 Homestead Road, lifelong resident of Centerville. I'd like to speak in favor of this to remove some of the abandoned cars and a big chunk of the hot top that's over there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. I'm going to open it up to the board. Dennis.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple questions about the design of the buildings here, but I think that this is a great looking site plan. I think that you got the right pieces here, and the fact that you're not crowding 3rd Street and we're suffering a little bit on the side yard, I think is a reasonable trade-off. So I'd like to just start with a couple of clarifications. The site plan itself has about a 4-foot grade change from, on the building on 3rd Street, has about a 4-foot grade change from one side of the lot to the other, but I don't see that reflected in the elevations.
No, what we plan on doing is putting a small, but this was an issue with the planning board. I designed it with a curb off the hot top that's there. I'm trying to reuse the existing parking lot and cut it. And then I was going to pour a concrete curb, which would be 8 inches high. So that would bring me up 8 inches on that high end right now. Then I would, on the far end, I have to be 8 inches out of the ground minimum to code. Then as I come down, they were concerned that it was going to be over 24 inches exposed on the side of the building, on the foundation. But there's a couple of ways. I think I'm going to be between 30 and 36, so on that height. So if it comes to that, I'm willing to work with planning and development, and I can always drop a row of siding down over the foundation so that less foundation shows on that end. But that is because of the slope in the road, we're dealing with that, you know. But on the front part of it, what we're going to do is put a retaining wall. We're going to put a small retaining wall here and sort of wrap it around so that it raises the front makes it look a little bit nicer.
Okay, you don't, on the rear elevation, you don't show any railings on the decks.
No, but on the plan, I plan to have those, there's no railings on the decks. My plan is to have the steps, the engineer has steps drawn, and probably don't have them all drawn in, but there's gonna be some steps on that back or a ramp to bring me up to the level, to try to keep everything on a level ground.
A ramp sounds a little bit better for the tote storage than steps, but,
Yeah, well, that's what I'm gonna try to do. I might actually have to pour a set of steps in when you have a ramp on the side to bring the totes down. The totes was something we have to sort of deal with a little bit, but I think I can work it out.
it sounds a little aggressive what you're trying to accomplish on the side, though, where, I like your site plan. You've got green space, you got the parking kind of small, but I think it works. I think, and I'd rather see the smaller parking space in a little more green area, but where I think we're a little tight is that side yard where you got that 4-foot walkway.
Yeah.
For one thing, you've got the was it gas or the electric meters?
The electric meters, yep.
And so you've got a projection of maybe 12 inches or so.
Right, I have, and there's doors over those, right.
And so that 4-foot dimension is down to maybe...
The 3-foot walkway.
3 foot, yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, did you think about stepping the building?
I did, but everything becomes,
I know.
you know, an economic, it starts getting into the, you know, the design, stepping, there's a bunch of things. And that's still an option,
It
you
would
know.
help with the street elevation, I think, especially breaking the mass.
Yep.
It would be nice to see that. And then you would eliminate the fact that you've got steps basically coming right to the sidewalk from those 2 units closest to the parking area,
Right.
which is kind of unfortunate. All right. I think that you did a great job.
And again, the front entrance, we're trying to, I spent a lot of time
Looks beautiful.
in Cambridge. I'm trying to give it that vestibule entrance of the old days.
Absolutely right. You really have eliminated this, cookie cutter townhouse aesthetic, and you created something I think that's reasonable. It fits, I think, well into the neighborhood, if not better than some of the stuff in the neighborhood. So,
Yep.
nice job.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I've driven by that property, that front lot. How long has that wood sign been on there trying to sell this lot? And maybe you've been dealing with it for years.
We finally took it down Dennis took it down about a month ago.
Just recently, yeah, I saw it disappear. So I'm glad to see something happening with it. I think it's a great project for the area. I echo some of Dennis's concerns with that tight walkway, bringing the garbage totes around. So hopefully that's something you can work around, especially with the gas or electric meters. It looks like there's a little shed on the side. Is that accurate?
Well, the gas meters will probably be around the back end.
Okay, so it's
I'm
just the
assuming
electric.
they'll loop around, and that's what they usually do. This would just be the electric meters. And if for some reason, I've got to meet with the electric company. If I can get them on the upper end, I'd rather do it that way.
Yeah, bring it down. So just protruding out, bringing, I don't know, the tote to 2.5 feet wide themselves, so it'd just be tight quarters. But I think all in all, it's a great project, and I wish you luck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I agree with my colleagues. I think it's a great project, package very well prepared, and I appreciate that, as we've have received some inappropriate packages in the past. The question I do have is, as it relates to snow storage. You indicated that one section up top. Is there going to be snow storage and snow removal?
Yes. Yeah, there's the curb area. What we did was there's a hatch area in here where they wanted a screen between the usable open space. Right. So we pushed it back to allow for snow storage there, which that's over snow storage. So if it doesn't, like this big storm, we'd have to truck it out, the big one we had in February 5th. But the normal snow storage, we can send our Bobcat over and lift it up over the curb and at least store it there if it gets beyond this small area that's here.
Okay. I think the green space is very well set in this property. I think going along with the recommendations of the planning for those different plantings, I think it's going to be something that'll be unique to have seasonal plantings throughout. And as my good grandmother would say, over in God's country, we need as much open space as possible, and I appreciate the efforts that your company's
Yeah.
putting into this
The original building on the front lot
project. Oh, yeah.
covered the whole lot, 4
Yep.
stories, so it's a big improvement.
Yep, no, I think it's a great project. I appreciate the updated site plan, and I wish you the best.
Okay, so I'll go back to my couple of questions here. The existing curb cuts that are on Third Ave right now, the one that's down, I'll say, next to the property at 24 and 28, what's going to happen to that curb cut?
Which one are you referring to?
So I guess it would actually be located, based on your plans, in front of the 4 new units that are going on Third Ave?
Right, that curb is being lifted.
Okay, so
Yep.
that'll be,
That's an existing curb cut right now.
correct, so that'll be taken care of.
Yeah, the granite's there, we're just gonna have to
Yep.
dig it out and raise it.
The fire hydrant that's in front,
That'll stay,
okay,
yep. Unless the
So-
city wants to move it.
right. Well, it shows that it's in front of the units, that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, no, that'll remain.
Okay.
The poles that protect it will probably disappear.
Right.
Because they're on the back side of it, preventing the people that park in there to back up against it. So those will go, because there's no more parking there.
Correct. One observation I made, and this isn't in regards to your property per se, but and maybe Mrs. Page will appreciate this, but if I look at the sidewalk on Third Ave, adjacent to where you're putting in the new building,
Correct.
it's pretty well beat up.
We plan we have that in there. We're either going to
Okay.
repair or replace as per the city
Okay.
engineer.
Well, I know, not your petition, somebody else's, there was a reference, I think they made it to Joe or Aaron, about having the city do some work, and they weren't going to commit the city to performing work, but that's just an observation I made. If we're going to clean up that whole area, that sidewalk's pretty well beaten up,
Yep.
so.
No, we realize that.
Okay.
Plus, we have to cut into it for all the utilities on Third anyways.
No, that's great with me. The other thing that was discussed at the planning board was the requirement, whether you needed 1 or 2 handicap, you're down to 1. That's been
That'll be
decided,
based
right?
on the building inspector. Yep.
So I talked to Joe today about the building commissioner making that decision. And Joe, if I understood correctly, based on your discussions with him, it looks like the petitioner would only need the 1, as far as we know right now, correct?
Correct. His interpretation of the ADA requirements say that only 1 handicap
So
space is
that's,
required.
as far as I'm concerned, you're just going to need the requirement for 1. That's what's already shown on the plan.
Correct.
So that should hopefully help you. And all the units are going to be rented. There's no owner occupied, correct?
No, they're all rented. We manage different properties around the city.
Yep, okay. All right, I think that's all I have at this point. Doesn't mean I won't come back with something else, but I'm going to move it to Corey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, Mr. Hollow, a few questions on the buildings now. The one facing Bridge Street, you got 2 commercial units on street level.
It could be either 2 or 1. There'll be a wall that can be added or removed.
Okay. Any idea the nature of the businesses at this point? I know
No,
it's pretty-
not at all.
Okay. And 4 residential units above that, correct?
Correct, townhouse style, though.
Okay. How many bedrooms per?
3 bedrooms on 3 of them and 2 bedroom on the other one.
Okay, 3 threes and a
3
2.
threes and 1
Okay,
2.
now how about the row housing?
All
on,
2 bedroom.
All 2s, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, well, I think what bodes well in your favor is that, the parking, I think, is suffice, because this neighborhood typically uses public transportation there. A lot of the people are on foot in this neighborhood, so I think that bodes well in your favor there. And again, as the neighborhood group spoke, and again, thank you for giving your time to them. They're a very important component down there, and we rely heavily on their feedback, so, and you have their blessing, so that's always a plus.
Thank you.
So again, I mean, I toured this site today. I got out of the car and walked around. It needs help. And thank you for spending all these countless months on this project with the city, with the neighborhood groups. I'm sure it hasn't been easy. There's a lot of hurdles here. And so I want to commend you for a great project. It has it all: parking, businesses, new residential, green space. It's a complete package, so to speak. So I commend you, and I wish you the best, and I do support your project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is a great project, it really is. I also appreciate the package, and this is a great addition to the neighborhood and to the city, so I wish you the best, and I know this project will be a great thing for the city as a whole. Thank you.
Okay, well, I thank everybody on this board, and obviously Mrs. Page being here this evening for her neighborhood group, who are very active, and they keep an eye on things. So obviously we have a vacant space there that needs some attention. You're willing to come in. You've worked with the city trying to put a good plan together, and I think it shows with the set of plans that we've had. I know you had a good, I'll call it grilling session with the planning board, which I think actually works out best for everybody in the end. So I think it addressed a lot of good points. Obviously, if we take a look at both parcels as far as the prerequisites we talked about, as far as granting variances, the counselor talked about, you know, obviously the shape and size of that lot today versus the original plans. Yeah, it's undersized, but I believe at the end of the day, once we have a finished product in there, it's obviously going to be another benefit to that corridor of the city, which, to Mrs. Page's point, slowly but surely is coming around. It's becoming a nice gateway into the city coming in from, I guess, the north. So with that said, the only condition that I believe I came up with or heard, and I'll just bounce this off your counselor, those questions about final, I'll call it final plans. I think Dennis had a question around elevations, and I believe you made some comments in regards to some finishing off of plans. So Joe, I guess I would ask just through you, as a condition, if we the board, to sign off on this, that we get a final set of plans from the petitioner that meets, I guess, all the criterias and the final adjustments. So through planning, was there anything incorporated with their conditions?
Yes, there was.
That handles the final set of plans? Maybe I'll ask it that way, because I know that'll be another condition, as you know, Counselor, with
Yes, there was
planning board.
there was a condition relating to the final elevations to be brought back to the planning board for approval.
So Dennis, that should take care of, you know, your comments that you had for Mr. Marlowe. Okay. Any other board members have any other comments or conditions that? Okay, so the only condition I guess we'll have is that we'll also accept the planning board's conditions as part of our vote this evening. And as far as the conditions, Joe, do we need them? Do we need it for just one vote, or do we have to have the conditions for both?
They should be incorporated into both.
Both, okay. So with that said, if I could, no.
And I think you do need, Mr. Chairman, I think you do need to take two separate votes if that's the intent.
Correct, that's
Yeah.
what we're going to
Okay.
do, and the conditional will go for each
Both
vote,
votes,
too.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so can I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us, ZBA 2013-06, for a variance at 14 and 16 3rd Street. Make a motion to approve with the following condition, that this board accepts the planning board's conditions for the approval.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Ahern,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Bailey,
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Belanger,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin,
Approve with conditions.
So that petition has been approved with conditions. Could I have a motion on the second petition, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us, ZBA 2013-07, for a variance at 401 Bridge Street. Make a motion to approve the following conditions, that this board accepts the planning board's conditions for the approval of this project.
Have a second?
Second it?
Have a roll call?
Mr. Ahern,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Bailey,
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Belanger,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin.
Approve with conditions.
Okay, Councilor Geary and Mr. Mallow, you've been approved on both petitions. Wish you the best of luck. I'm sure it'll come out great.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're all aging well. Okay, we have, under other business, we have nothing on our agenda. Any other comments? Any members of the board? Hearing none. Just want to double check on the next meeting would be for April 8th, Joe?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And without any other comments, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second?
So moved. Good evening.